Anything. Hello, everyone. This is, of course, Luis and I, along with another analyst, did our annual Central Illinois crop tour. It's very interesting that we've been, this other analyst, Jack Scoville, and I have been doing the same tour for many years, and particularly over the last 6 or 7 years, we've kind of consistently done the same general counties around central Illinois, which kind of centers in Bloomington, Illinois. And so the interesting twist on this, yes, we know it's a specialized area. It's also a very potentially good producing area in the state of Illinois. But we feel it's also helpful to get a comparison of year over year about what's going on in one of the better areas of the country and that. And so that's what we done over this period of time, and it helps us get a judgment as to how things are going on. If we look at the best and we compare the best every year, then we sense that we have a good feel of what the rest of the areas around central U.S. are about. It doesn't mean that I know what's going on in Nebraska or Iowa or Ohio, but it gives us a sense of it. The key thing is how we approach this is that we do field samples very similar to how the USDA does theirs. They do a slightly different mix, but this is a pretty standard one that's utilized for most crop tours from banks and Pro Farmer and things like that. And we go out there and we measure one thousandth of an acre of what we see in the corn crop, where that turns out to be what the plant population is. We then look at the rows around on the corn, and we also count the kernel length, and that turns out to create ourselves a yield over 2 rows of corn, and averaging it out for that sample for that field. And it really, then you really see what's going on. Driving by gives you a sense of what's there, but you don't really know what's inside a field, if it's a late or it's early, or if it's been damaged by something along the way, insects or whatever. And so it's a situation where that way we have a sense of it. And then we go ahead and, after doing these 7 or 8 different counties, or 7 or 8 samples over the central Illinois area, then we average them out on stuff. This year, it turns out that during the first part of the tour, we felt like some of the yields, we had a couple fields that came through a lot less than we anticipated, and that gave us a feeling that we maybe were going to have numbers even less than the average we've had over the last, as I said, last 2 or 3 years. And we've been, our record here has been around a 207 and a half bushels average over our stops. This year it turned out to be a little bit higher, primarily because, interestingly enough, our last 2 stops, which have in Ford and Iroquois counties, were built stronger than normal, and that's positive for them. And that, so our average turned out to be 209 and a half bushels, kind of 2 bushels over the kind of the highs we've had. But overall, definitely not a barn burner type of yields, but it does suggest a very solid potential here, and that we'll just have to see how this thing finishes out. And in the soybean side of things, it's always difficult to get a sense of what you're going to have, because August is so important for late blooming and pod fill and things like that in soybeans, and you really can't count them. They talk about counting nodes, but you don't have enough time in the day to do that. So also in that case, that the one thing that we did taken away from this is the fact that the maturity of the soybeans, and if you think about it, a lot of the soybeans were planted mid-May and late May, and so the timing of it, we're still in the process of really getting the flowering and the pod set going. So we really don't have a great feel, other than the fact that the crop is, as always, very clean and that, but we also observed it to be a little shorter than normal because the growth situation hasn't been in the ground long enough to have it tall. So in that case, The the soybean crop is still yet to be determined. It's going to be highly important how the rains hit and where they hit as to what our national yield will be. But people are cautious, and I think that's a great concept of looking at the beans and being looking at what our yields might or might be. And I think that's part of the reason that this crop tour is going to be quite helpful for us to understand what's ahead. Because basically the concept we're doing here is we're going to measure the results of 2 rows counted of ears, and then average the things between the two, of course. And then we're going to pull 3 ears, somewhere between 10, 18, 22, something like that, as we go along. So, this is filled out to the end.
Yeah, this is nice.
These are easier to count. You don't have to worry about the tip back situation. That would be another demonstration for us. But I can't say that they're the longest ears. Just look. Yes, here we are in DeWitt County in central Illinois. It's one of kind of the traditionally strong yielding counties we've had on this crop tour that we do around central Illinois. And it didn't disappoint again this year. We had a strong population, highest so far at 33,000 ears, and then the length of ear was in the strong end of it, and we had a very good row count of over 17 average. Turned out to be about 240 bushel, 245 bushel corn from there. It's not the highest I've had in this county, but still beating the rest of the tour so far by at least 25 bushels. So definitely an impressive factor. And let's swing around here and let's look at these beans as we talk. This bean field looks like most of them here, very clean and good looking. But you look inside here, and the pods have really substantially already set on these fields, and you can see how many are there. Comparison, this is like I'd say 3 times as many pods that we've seen in a bean field so far this season, and at this stage of the game. So it's off to a great start for the. You going?
Yeah.
And well, here we are at the conclusion of the Central Iowa crop tour that we've done today. We're in Iroquois County, coming back along I-57 back to Chicago. And that we had actually a couple good fields here in both Ford and Iroquois, kind of bouncing back after kind of a low point there in the southeast part of McLean County. In that the yields back over 200 here. The maturity of the soybeans, though, has continued to be, I'd have to say, behind schedule. The late plantings, things like that. The amount of real pods out here in this fields are pretty limited at this point. We've had a couple fields with some decent pods, but overall, out of the say 5 or 6 different fields, we haven't really seen a lot of pod set yet, which means that August is going to be a tremendously important month for U.S. soybeans here in central Illinois as to what kind of yields will finally come about. But we've had a good time. We've actually, the heat's been a little bit treacherous, but overall we've got it done, and we're on the way back to Chicago.